as Miss Rachel's coming around, Ronnie asked the question on Sunday, and so I put this together for anybody who's interested to look at the idea of fasting. As you're looking at it, these are just basic guidelines. This is fairly relaxed of a fast. This isn't a super hard fast. As it says right there, right out of the gate, fasting rules are not laws but disciplines. They are guides, not commands. So if you decide that you want to participate in the Lenten fast, and you say, I'm going to have a hard time with that one, too hard for me, then fine. Give something else over here, Fasting is an excellent way to learn discipline of the heart and mind. We'll deal with that more in the lesson. I want to make sure we're very clear on this. A medical condition that requires relaxed fasting guidelines is okay. Fasting from foods to the detriment of your health is not allowed. If you are sick, do not fast. If you need foods that are on the elimination list, you go on ahead, you eat them, just reduce your quantities. These guidelines are ideals, but you adjust for your own health reasons. Children and adults with physical and mental illness, pregnant women and those nursing are all exempt. And as it says there, common sense should prevail and no one should jeopardize their health to fast. Some people do fasting. Fasting has gotten popular, especially in weight loss, what's called intermittent fasting. That's fine for your body. The purpose of fasting in the Lord's church is so that we have more time to devote to prayer and worship and meditation on God, with the goal of being more like God. As it says there, fasting meals should be cooked simply and with smaller portions. And if you like to go to Taco Bell drive-thru on Sunday and you order the taco party pack for you, all right, go on ahead and order it and then find 3 other people and give 7 of those tacos away, all right? You eat less. And the goal is, now some people, they totally mess up the concept of this fast. Because they prepare these elaborate things during this fast that because they're not using stuff they normally use, they kind of go overboard, and all the time that they would save by doing something simple and something small, they lose that time for prayer and meditation and worship to that extra prep. That kind of defeats the purpose. You say, you telling me I should just chop some salad and eat a salad for one of my small meals? Yeah, it takes like 5 minutes. Take 5 minutes, boom, you're done. This fast allows 1 full meal and 2 smaller ones. The 2 smaller meals cannot equal 1 full meal when they're combined. Hence why I'm a fan of salad for one of my small meals. Law of abstinence. Beef, pork, birds, take those out. Eliminate all added sugars, fat, dairy, eggs, leavened breads, and no alcohol at all. No alcohol, okay? And as you look at some of those, think about your diet. How many things are you addicted to that are on the sugars, fats, or all that? And we'll talk a little bit more about that as we move into the lesson. Fridays are your abstinence days. That's everything we just looked at. All that's off the table. Salt or freshwater fish and shellfish are allowed on Fridays. Minors under 18 not bound. But if you have minors under 18, you should educate them in the purpose of repentance, and you should help them to do acts of charity suitable for their age. And because that's the goal, to do acts of repentance and charity daily. And for our purposes here, Sundays and Wednesdays are treated as feast days, which there is no restriction on what you eat on a feast day. The only deal is you still limit it to 1 meal and 2 smaller meals maximum. And so if you have questions on that, feel free to ask. But that just gives you some guidelines. Fasting is extremely beneficial. And we're going to look at some different passages. And like it says, give up something bad. The first time I ever heard about Lent, some of the kids I went to school with were Catholic or Lutheran or Methodist. And they all gave up stuff like bubble gum and soda, right? And, and they thought it was a big deal. And when I saw the title of this book, I thought, this is actually a pretty good point. Most people give up something, quote, good, and they don't give up something bad. And what's the benefit of giving up something bad? And we'll address it now in case we don't.
You're asking that question?
Yeah. What's the benefit of giving up something bad, even if it's just for 40 days?
Bad in what way? Like bad for your health, or
Doesn't matter. You know it's bad for you.
because after you not do something for about 21 days, I think it becomes a habit.
Okay.
That's what I was gonna say.
Okay.
And in a way, it's sort of a little bit of an act of repentance.
Okay.
To give up something bad.
Okay. And some people be like, maybe you steal every time you go to the grocery store. So for Lent, you decide you're going to give up stealing when you go to the grocery store. Now some people be like, you shouldn't be doing it anyways. All right. Everyone who knows that people sin all the time in America, and we shouldn't, keep your hand down. Okay? You got a mistress on the side, or you got a male lover on the side, or you got a porn addiction, or you've got a drug habit that nobody knows about. And you decide that you're going to give it up during this window. And some people will say, well, they should give it up anyways. Right, yes, we know that. But what's one of the great lessons you learn if you can give something up for, say, 6 weeks?
You can prove that you can do it. Sacrifice.
You can prove you can do it. Sacrifice. It gives you back control over your flesh. And that's where we're going to lead in tonight. That's where we're going to lead in.
You can build up self-esteem too.
Yeah. Let's go to Isaiah 58, 1 through 11. Because I want to make sure we hear what the Lord said back in the Old Testament, and then we're going to come over and see what our Lord says in the New Testament. And if I get someone to read Isaiah 58, 1 through 11. And remember, what's the word Lent mean? Spring season. It just is an old English word that means spring season. That's it. All right, it's not some secret holy word. Right? It just means spring season. You got it, Brother Matt? Go ahead, brother.
Shout it aloud, do not hold back. Raise your voice like a trumpet. Declare to my people their rebellion, and to the house of Jacob their sins. For day after day they seek me out. They seem eager to know my ways, as if they were a nation that does what is right, and has not forsaken the commands of its God. They ask me for just decisions, and seem eager for God to come near them. Why have we fasted, they say, and you have not seen it? Why have we humbled ourselves, and you have not noticed? Yet on the day of your fasting you do as you please, and exploit all your workers. Your fasting ends in quarreling and strife, and in striking each other with wicked fists. You cannot fast as you do today and expect your voice to be heard on high. Is this the kind of fast I have chosen? Only a day for a man to humble himself? Is it only for bowing one's head like a reed, or for lying on sackcloth as in ashes? Is this what you call fast? A day acceptable to the Lord? Is not this kind of fasting I have chosen to loose the chains of injustice and untie the cords of the yoke to set the oppressed free and break every yoke? It is not to share your food with the hungry. Is it not to share your food with the hungry and to provide the poor wanderer with shelter? When you see the naked, to clothe him, and to not turn away from your own flesh and blood. Then your light will break forth like the dawn, and your healing will quickly appear. Then your righteousness will go before you, and the glory of the Lord will be your rear guard. Then you will call, and the Lord will answer. You will cry for help, and he will say, Here am I. If you do away with the yoke of oppression, with the pointing finger and malicious talk, and you spend yourselves in behalf of the hungry and satisfy the needs of the oppressed, then your light will rise in the darkness, and your night will become like the noonday. The Lord will guide you always. He will satisfy your needs in a sun-scorched land and will strengthen your frame. You will be like a well-watered garden, like a spring whose waters never fail.
And this, and what's at the heart of this? He says, when you fast, you wonder why I'm not listening. You wonder why I'm not paying attention. It's because you're refraining from certain things physically, but you're ugly people on the inside, and it comes out in spades when you're fasting. And, that Snickers commercial is spot on. You're not yourself when you're hungry, right? If you've never done a total fast, generally by day 2 or 3, you find out what's inside of you. Because when your blood sugar has dropped out and other things that your body has become chemically dependent on in the food that you eat, when it's not there and you start to go through withdrawals in your food, man, you will find out all kinds of things about yourself. And that's his point. You're fasting, and at the end of the day, you're getting in fights and you're saying nasty, hateful junk to each other. And he says, and you can't figure out why I'm not listening. He says, instead, what? If you're going to hold back from bread, give the bread that you're not eating to someone that doesn't have bread. If you're going to put on clothes that aren't comfortable, give your comfortable clothes to someone that doesn't have clothes. And this is the Lord's attitude in Isaiah on this. And what does he say then? Verse 9, he says what? Then you shall call, and the Lord will answer, and you'll cry out, and he'll say, Here I am. So we see that. Now let's go over to Matthew 6 and see what our Lord says there in that passage. Matthew 6, 16 through 18.
Moreover, when you fast, do not be like the hypocrites with a sad countenance, for they disfigure their faces, that they may appear to men to be fasting. Assuredly, I say to you, they have their reward. But you, when you fast, anoint your head and wash your face, so that you do not appear to men to be fasting, but to your Father who is in the secret place, and your Father who sees in secret will reward you openly.
All right. I've known people over the years that when they fast, they go around, oh, it's a rough day, I'm fasting. Oh, but I love the Lord. And I've told a few of them, dude, you might as well go get your cheeseburger because your fast is now wasted. And then those same people, when they came back, and they're like, you told the whole church you were fasting. Jesus said you're wrong. No, I told the church I'm fasting so that people won't keep asking me out for dinner for the next 2 weeks. All right? When you fast, put Brill cream in your hair, gents. For those who got hair, Kevin. Right? But, for you, go to the barber, get a nice fresh trim, get the excess cut off, clean it up, look sharp, right? Something quiet. And then go on ahead, put on your best smile. You know, and if you can't put on your best smile, put on your best not unhappy face, right? But between you and the Lord, it's between you and the Lord.
To go with that, I would say it's almost like a tempering
It is.
of your attitude, because not only you put yourself to the fire, you're under the circumstances of being in the fast, to then hold yourself in the accountability of your actions more so at that point, tempers your attitude even more so.
Yeah. And with what Matt said, I want to say this. If you've never done a fast other than the 24 hours before you go to the doctor for something, what's on my list here may be even too much for you. Okay? If you've got a Pepsi habit that you drink 3 Pepsis a day, switch it to 3 Pepsi ones. Okay? Switch it to 3 Pepsi ones. All right? If can you be addicted to the food you eat?
Yes.
Yeah. And some of the foods are actually engineered for addiction. Okay? So some of this, and here's why I'm saying that. I would hate for you the first time you fast for multiple days to tank yourself, to subvert yourself, because you tried to bite off more than you could chew, because you've never put your body through this discipline. So start with something simple and hold that out. When you get 2, 3, 4 days, then if you want to add one more to it, because the one thing you don't like to do in a fast is to give in to your own weakness and break your fast because you have no internal discipline or integrity. It beats you up. And there's nothing quite like being on day 30 or 31 of a 40-day fast and you forget and someone sets something out and you grab and say, what do? Go on ahead, eat regular for that day and the next day, take a few days off, then start all over again. There's a difference if you accidentally break your fast because you weren't being mindful, and if you choose to break your fast because you're being weak. Those are 2 totally different things. And so start with something easy if you're going to, okay? But want to make sure that we understand, first of all, fasting does not manipulate God. All right? Fasting does not manipulate God. You mean, Brother Brian, if I fast for 40 days, God's not going to appear to me like he did Moses? Probably not. I don't know. I can't tell you if God's going to give you, some kind of wonderful epiphany on day 40. But I know this, if you fast because you're like, you owe me, God, because I fasted for you, you're in a wrong spot. You will not make God do what you want because you're not eating sugar. Okay? So don't think that fasting manipulates God. Fasting does allow us to realize how much control our flesh has in our lives. This ties in right on the heels of our whole thing with worldliness. We are slaves to our flesh, and most of the time we don't even think about it. Fasting gives you that break where you go, man, I've been running on, autopilot and not even thinking about this stuff. Fasting allows you to realize that. Fasting also allows our spirit to submit and yield to the Holy Spirit to be transformed by the working of the Lord through his word. One of the reasons why we have so much persistent sin in our lives is because we never fasted. All those years that brethren said you don't have to do fasting, they did the entire church a disservice. Jesus said, and Sister Ann read it, Jesus said, when you fast. And then the brethren said, you don't need to fast. Jesus said, my apostles will fast when I'm gone. And guess what? The apostles in the early church fasted. It's not till the 1800s that people all of a sudden go, well, you don't need to fast no more. This is why we have so much persistent sin in the church. This is what Paul will write, and he says, the God of their belly. They serve the God of their belly. Talking about one of the churches and their destruction. If we can't say no to certain things, as simple as say a soda, how much other sin can overwhelm us if we can't even say no to a soda or something similar? Okay. Fasting is fulfillment. Go back just a page in your Bibles there, Matthew 5:29 and 30. And this is how we know it's a problem. Okay? He says, if your right eye causes you to sin, pluck it out and cast it from you, for it's more profitable for you that one of your members perish than for your whole body to be cast into hell. And if your right hand causes you to sin, cut it off, cast it from you, for it's more profitable for you that one of your members perish than for your whole body to be cast into hell. Undisciplined flesh destroys our souls. And Jesus' point is, be extreme in disciplining it. Be extreme in disciplining it. Most people will never work as hard on their faith as they worked on their job or their degree or something else in their life. Most people will never work that hard on their faith, and then they'll say, you know, brother, I tried the Jesus thing for 20 years. I never got there. Did you try it with as much discipline? You know, if a batter wants to hit over 300, what does he have to do? He has to put in some serious time to get there. And he has to listen to people he doesn't like. He has to make all kinds of tweaks to his swing and everything else. And if he wants to hit over 300, what will he do? He will discipline his body until he gets it down so that he can do it. But when it comes to being like Jesus, we're like, well, you know, brother, it's awful hard. One of my favorite lines in The Simpsons, they said, you know, they go to this counselor because Ned Flanders is out of control. His parents say, Ned's out of control. And they said, hey, man, we've tried nothing and we're all out of ideas, man. And that's, in a lot of ways, that's kind of, so we have to, our flesh is our enemy if it holds ascendancy. If it holds top dog place, our flesh is our enemy. Now, is flesh a good thing? Yeah. Okay. Ronnie knows this. Ronnie, a horse that's not tied in the stall, that's just been stung by a bee and hit with a hot shot 9 times, is that the one that you want to try and shoot? Now, that same horse, tied and not agitated, you can shoe and it's all right to ride, and it can be a good thing once it's got a bit and a bridle. That's the way our flesh is. In the proper bounds, under control of a dominant spirit that's renewed by Jesus Christ, our flesh is good and can be used for good. But if it's what's on top, a Mustang never did anything good for anybody. Wild horses are useless. They're the most useless thing on the planet. Shoot them down and make them into dog food and glue. Okay, for how many fields were ever plowed by wild horses? Thank you. All right. Same thing with our flesh. Matthew 16:24. How many of you remember when Elmer's glue used to have the cow head on it? Yeah, that wasn't subliminal advertising. That's what they used to make the glue out of. was the animal parts. Yeah, the hooves and, yeah. So, all right, Matthew 16:24. Someone has that.
Then Jesus said to his disciples, if anyone desires to come after me, let him deny himself and take up his cross and follow me.
All right. If we want to come after him, we have to deny ourselves. If we can't deny little things in our daily flesh, it will be very hard to deny spiritual things that run the risk of destroying our souls. Thoughts, comments, or questions before we move to the next part? Agreement, disagreement. Cuss or discuss? What, Phyllis?
I didn't say anything.
I know, but you had that look. So good and bad for Lent. The good, the bad, and the ugly. Fasting guideline sheet, you got it. Bad habits, sinful habits, wickedness, and ugliness that runs bone deep. Some stuff we need to give up. You know, if someone has said to you, you've got a caustic personality more than 10 times in the last 20 years, you might have some ugliness in you that runs bone deep. Give it up for Lent. Don't be caustic for Lent. You say, well, you shouldn't be that way. Right. Let's be clear. You shouldn't be that way anyways. How many of us have stuff in our lives that we know we shouldn't be that way, but it's still there? This gives us that opportunity. There are some bad habits that aren't necessarily sinful. There are sinful habits. There's wickedness. He said, no, wickedness is a step beyond sinful. All wickedness is sin, but not all sin qualifies as wickedness. Okay? Pol Pot was a bad guy. 2 million with the Khmer Rouge. Hitler was worse, 6 million. Stalin was wicked. He said, no, Hitler was wicked. No, Stalin was wicked. He outstripped Hitler eight times. He had at least 50 million that we know of. Okay? There is a slide, there is a scale that goes up on this. Fasting gives you the chance to look inside at the things that you normally don't look at because your flesh is on autopilot, and it forces you sometimes to confront yourself and realize how bad you are in certain areas. And some people, I'm not that bad, brother. Are we honest with each other in the church? Okay. God help the preacher if he's ever honest with the wrong person, especially if that person cuts a check big enough that they're 20% of the offering. I've known way too many churches that preacher will be gone by the end of the day. And here's the sad part. You know what it proves? The preacher was right. They're bad. And the people who backed them are wicked. But we don't dare be honest with each other. Why? Because, well, you offended them. If I catch you with your girlfriend because your wife isn't there, and I tell you you need to knock it off or you're going to hell, and then you get mad and you tell everybody that I said you was going to hell. And now everybody's mad at me because you're such a nice guy. How dare I tell that you going to hell? See, we have honesty issues. Yeah. And so this is a time to look at those things that you don't, and it's the stuff, some of it early on, some of it will be the stuff that you know that you haven't been right where you should be. For some people, it's gossip. For some people, it is excessive negativity. Well, you know, brother, we need to have faith, but I just don't, with the economy and everything so bad, and I just don't think there's a way for God to make this work. That's a statement of unbelief. You said, we have to have faith. Then you said, but, and then you just said, God's not able. I remember in 2008, every time we tried to do something in the church, I know we need faith, brother, but, we need to make sure we hold on to money in the bank account because we don't know what the economy's going to do. Brother, all I'm asking for is $200 so we can evangelize, buy tracts and, evangelize. That's all I'm asking for. I'm asking for $20,000 out of the account. I'm asking for $200. Well, we'll trust the Lord, and if this economy turns around, we'll look at it again next year. How about hypercriticism? Is that a bad habit? No. Next time you work on your car or your truck, during Lent, give up the foul language when you're working on stuff. I was so proud of myself the other night. I finally felt better. And Catherine said, I need you to get into the dishwashing machine, and I need you to clean out the filters. And dishwasher clean out is a nuisance because you're at an odd angle because that door has to be open. That then you have to snake yourself around and put stuff behind where you can't see to pop stuff loose. And then it's all still wet, soapy, and grimy. Yeah, thank you, Ann. Slimy. And I got everything out. I was so proud of myself. I didn't even think a bad word. And I said to myself, it would figure. When she's out of town and I do a project for her, I didn't even think a bad word, let alone say it. She wasn't there. And then because I knocked something loose when I cleaned it out, it blocked the screen going into the pump that I had to retake it all apart again. What'd you say on the second one? Well, at least I know where everything is and I know how to do it. And I didn't say it or think it the second time either. And then I was so frustrated because I did it twice and I didn't even think about bad words that time. And she wasn't here.
God was.
Yeah, I know. I know. Give up the good, the bad, the ugly. There's good stuff it's not bad for you, but give up good for better. Give up the bad to stop the slide within your spirit. Give up the ugly because it's rotting you out from the inside out. Use this time to look at that. 3 things I want to encourage you. Bitterness. 1 John 3, and I'm just gonna give you these, all right? I'm just gonna put them up for you so you can jot them down. 1 John 3, why did Cain slay Abel? Because Cain works were evil and his brother's works were righteous. But Cain was bitter against his brother. At the heart of that was bitterness. And the Lord came and he said, Cain, son, if you just do what I told you, everything will be fine. And Cain got up and he killed his brother. He was bitter, and that bitterness that he had inside of him that he nursed against his brother caused him to not be able to farm anymore, and it caused him to be put out from the presence of the Lord. Those were the top 2 things. He couldn't do his work, and he couldn't be in the presence of the Lord. Okay? And one that I didn't put up there, and this one, when I thought about bitterness, I thought about this guy, Nabal and Abigail. That dude was so eat up with bitterness. when he found out his wife had been nice to David, he had an apoplectic fit and gave himself a stroke, and it killed him. He was filled with so much bitterness, he couldn't even conceive of anybody else doing good to someone else. And it killed him. And it killed him. Bitterness is the poison that you nurse against others, and it will poison you. Apathy. Hebrews 5, Haggai is where they went back to build the temple, and instead they built their own houses, and when they got their houses built, they didn't care if they ever finished the house of the Lord. That's apathy. Okay? But Hebrews 5, he says, when for the time you ought to be teachers, you need someone to teach you again. Why? Because you've grown dull of hearing. Apathy is a great danger in the church. We come to church, we hear preaching, we hear teaching, our lives are basically decent, our houses are basically decent, our cars basically run, and we start out real good when we get converted, and then we just kind of drift off into the land of lukewarmness. And when you think apathy, think lukewarm. Same kind of thing. And then discouragement. Discouragement is the open door to spiritual depression. All depression is spiritual. All depression is spiritual. Okay? And he said, no, you can manipulate the body's chemistry to interfere with that. But all depression comes out of discouragement, and all depression is spiritual. In 1 Kings 19, there was a guy, his name was Elijah. He beat all the priests of Baal on top of the mountain, called down fire, and Jezebel said, I'm going to kill you because you killed my priests. And he said, oh no, what will I do? And off he ran and hid, and he got depressed 40 days. And at the end of 40 days, the Lord said, get up, I need you to go anoint 2 kings, and I need you to select your replacement. Eat your food, and let's get back to work. Why? He got discouraged because Jezebel said she was going to kill him. And here's why I say discouragement and all depression is spiritual. If you decide to focus only on the one bad event out of like 10 things in a row that went right, that's a mind problem. When you stay there and it gets into your spirit, it'll take you to a place of depression, and some people don't ever fully get back out of it. And some people, when I say this, I'm not trying to be against medical assistance. Medicine never fixes depression. Medicine overrides chemically and alters the effects of depression, but the root causes, the moment you stop the medicine, the root causes come back with an even greater force. And this has been shown time and time again. That's why when so many people come off of their meds, so many people end up killing themselves. Why? Because that weight that the medicine enabled them to not have to work with it. And when it came back without the medicine there, it overwhelmed them. Elijah was at the point of death. He flat said to God, let me sit here and die. Go ahead and just kill me. That's how deep he got into. All because Jezebel said she wanted to kill him. And my thing is, dude, why would you ask God to kill you when you were afraid of Jezebel killing you? It really don't make a difference who's going to kill you, so you might as well get back to work. But what? He lost sight of everything else, got in the place of discouragement, and it threw him into a cycle of depression. And so, as we've talked about some different things, and of these 3, maybe you say, none of these apply to me, brother. That's fine. Think about it between now and Sunday. Ask yourself, is there someone that you still nursing some bitterness against them when you think of them? Are there some things that you know you've let drop off into the realm of lukewarmness, that you know you need to get back on track, especially things with the Lord? And are there things where, frankly, you've just, and apathy and discouragement go together, you've just kind of give up? You don't care because you're in your pit, and your pit is now comfortable to you. Well, you're in a place of discouragement and depression. All right? And I'm not asking you to get out of your pit for the rest of the year. From today until till Easter, let's see, what's today, the 8th? All right, so we've got 32 days. I'm only asking you to give it up for 32 days. And on Wednesdays and Sunday, when it's a feast day, if you want to be discouraged, because we're breaking kind of from our fast those 2 days a week, well, then you can be discouraged or apathetic those 2 days. But then kick it back to the curb the other days of the week. All right? But try giving some of them up. I'm glad you're here tonight.
Question.
Yeah, Brother Ronnie.
Are any of our religious neighbors actually practicing, Lent? I know I've heard people in the Methodist faith talk about it, but I mean, do they actually practice it and the way we discuss it, or is it just an idea that gets thrown out there but not really practiced?
So, I mean, most of our Catholic neighbors will practice it more or less. Most Lutherans kind of do. Methodists and some of your Presbyterians do.
So it's 40 days, based upon the 40 days Jesus spent in the wilderness. 40 days before Easter.
Right.
That we should be mindful of things that are bad for us and bad for our relationship with God, and try to do away with those things.
Yes, sir.
And not eating certain foods as part of this.
Yeah.
Brings your attention more to these things. Is that a good way of
Yes,
doing
sir.
it?
That's an excellent way. You got the nail right on the head. You got the nail right on the head.
I believe First Christian, is practicing Lent,
Okay.
and maybe First Baptist, I'm not sure.
What about April 9th, 10 o'clock, what is that?
Easter egg hunt, and then 10:30 Easter service. And for those who object to the word Easter, most of our neighbors and friends use the word Easter. So it's easier just to use the word they use and roll with it and invite them so that they could come hear the gospel. On the church page, correct, Tyler? On the church page, plan your Easter early. We've got the post, and the way that it's set up, if you will just go to the church page on Facebook and share that post, when it pops up in the feed, it'll instantly say Lake Butler Church of Christ, Easter, April 9th, boom. It pops up in the feed that way. So, I mean, it's just pow, visually, everything is right there in one shot. So that's how we set it up. So, I mean, it works great. You don't have to do anything other than just go to Facebook, grab it, and share it. So, yeah, outside.
Where are they gonna hide them?
Oh, we hide them all over the place, and sometimes we just lay them out in the grass generically. I mean, we've got so many eggs, you know. All right. What's your new song, Mad Dog? 947. 947, all right. You had a different song in your head, didn't you? Big Book, 947 in the Big Book.
Claims that he thinks he knows 937, but I just quizzed him on it, and he read the words,
Yeah.
but the tune, I wasn't so sure about because he was whispering. So, I don't want him to go up there and.
Dude, if you can lead a song in 6/4 time, right now, today, I will give you $100 bill if you can lead it right.
Wow.
I'll hold the money.
Yeah. Because I know this, dude, I don't even like 6/4 time. I don't like 6/4. So 937 is our song of encouragement. 937.
37 or 47?
Did you say 27 or 37?
47, 947.
In the big book or the little?
Yeah, 947 in the big book. Yeah, 947 in the big book. There we go. Jesus is tenderly calling. 947 in the big book.
We'll work on the other one later.
All right. So on the prayer request for Rebecca Reynolds' niece, says she came home a little bit ago. They diagnosed her with having a seizure, sent her home with seizure medicine. She still needs lots of prayers. She's only 15 years old and scared, so continue to keep her in prayer. Your son, tell me again.
He had esophagus and stomach operation today.
Esophagus and stomach operation, so Phyllis is asking us to pray for good healing and rapid healing and recovery from that.
Please.
All right.
No, son.
Who?
Our son.
Tell everybody the name of your son.
Carl.
All right.
Fuller.
Carl. Her son Carl Fuller. All right. There's one other prayer request. I know there was one other prayer request today. What was it? All right. What else do we have that we need to be mindful of?
I'm having surgery tomorrow week on my leg.
You're having surgery tomorrow week on your leg. Okay, so keep Brother Russell in prayer. All right.
I think we need to pray for our interim city manager and all the stuff that's going on with all of that. And hopefully they can get it straightened out and that he can have the wisdom to find what he needs to find and fix what he needs to fix.
Okay.
Richard Tillis.
All right. So prayers for Richard Tillis, our interim city manager.
Oh, I didn't know that.
All right.
They did it last night.
Denise Crawford.
Yeah.
Continue to keep Denise in prayer. Continue to keep Betty French in prayer.
Alvin.
Yes, Alvin.
This isn't a prayer request, but I will not be here the next few Wednesday nights, so I need somebody to fill in for me. So if anybody would like to fill in, I'll have everything ready for you, and we'll announce it again on Sunday.
Okay. All right.
Elementary.
All right. Yes, Art, your prayer request.
Francis Miles had heart problems since he was a kid, 89 years old. And it's getting worse. Now he's been diagnosed with stage 4 liver cancer.
Thank you. You are my other prayer request. Thank you.
Let me see what he said.
All right. Say his name again.
Cecil Miles.
Cecil. Yes, ma'am.
So maybe you guys know, the Mennonites around here. Omar, he's kind of, one of the head Mennonites there. His grandson was born on Monday morning, and he had severe meconium aspiration, and he's on a ventilator at Chans Children's Hospital, and he may have pretty bad brain damage, and so
Okay.
we're asking, the Mennonite community is asking for prayers for him right now, that
And say the name of the little boy again.
his name is Caden Ray Bear.
Caden Raybear.
Yeah.
All right. All right. Okay. Wedding shower Sunday 3 to 5 in the multipurpose annex fellowship building. Wedding then next Saturday. Then cook out and kickball Sunday, March 26th. And that's also the youth-led service. And then April 2nd, old-time gospel singing and ice cream fellowship at Midway Church. All right, and if you have candy, please start deluging Tyler with candy for us to stuff the eggs with. All right. We're about 3.5, 4 weeks out on that. What else do we have announcement or prayer request wise?
Continue praying for the youth.
Say that again.
Continue praying for the youth.
Continue praying for the youth.
Extreme blessing.
Okay. Yes, sir. All right. You good, bud? All right. Almost. Almost. All right. Well, we are glad to have you here tonight. was listening to someone else preaching, and you know, if you've ever been walking through a parking lot and you find a penny or a dime or something like that on the ground that's been there a while, it generally looks pretty rough, doesn't it? But you know, the funny thing about a penny or a dime or a quarter that's been in the parking lot, that's been kicked, run over, everything else, what's the value of one that's been defaced and it hardly looks like that coin anymore? What is its value in compared to one that still looks good? The same. And heard a preacher use that in a illustration. And you know, it convicts me, because how often do we look at how roughed up someone or something is, and somehow we think that they have somehow a lower value. Value's still the same no matter how marred it is. And so I just want to encourage us. And unless you think, remember what Jesus said when they tried to trick him on the taxes? He said, whose image and superscription is this? And they said, Caesar's. Right? And he said, then give to Caesar what's Caesar, give to God what's God's. And everybody, you know, well, that, you know, the money of this world is blah, 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 pay your taxes, blah, 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 blah. No, that wasn't Jesus' point. Yeah, you pay your taxes. Jesus said, pay your taxes. Fine. What was the point? What's the image and superscription that's on a human being? Give to God what's God's. And each one of us bear the mark of God. And unlike currency of men, that they can melt down and stamp something new, you can never stamp something new on a person, because every person bears the mark of the image of God. And so as you and I go back out this week, let us do our best to be diligent to give to God what is God's. First in offering ourselves, and then in bringing as many as we can with us.